Starting lineup: Vayne, Warwick, Yone, Draven, Thresh, up against Mordekaiser, Hecarim, Mel, Smolder, Olaf. Rating of the picks for a casual game: Vayne as a top, 0. Warwick in the jungle, 8. Yone as a mid, 7. Draven in shooter, 6. Thresh in support, 7. Mordekaiser as a top, 9. Hecarim in the jungle, 1. Mel in mid, 7. Smolder in shooter, 8. Here in this game we end up in the support position because despite the fact that it has become a general rule that people in support abandon their ADCs, they still cannot find anybody to fill the spot and to fill the position. We're going to play this game alongside this regional hero and treasure Mel player calling themselves Jesus to rebel against the Christianity. It is the year 2025, by the way. We're 2025 and you're building your identity on rebelling against Christianity in the West. This is what happens, children, when you want to be a rebel really badly. More than anything, your ultimate dream in life is to be a rebel, but you're afraid to stare anybody down and you're afraid to face anybody. Then you just end up rebelling against Christianity in Europe in the year 2025. That you can call yourself part of the rebel movement. How daring. How brave. Stunning and brave. Meeting a lot of resistance from those pesky European Christians that are everywhere. He must feel that they're really restraining his personal freedom. Those European Christians running around everywhere, running rampant. They need to be mocked and attacked by rebels like you. What a brave stance. Going to follow this zoomed-in brawl adjacent to the grubs. We follow a very benevolent Yone here, who's going to clean up the mess only to get a simple assist out of it. We see this Mordekaiser missing quite atrociously repeatedly. And this is of course not how the isolation power of the Death Realm Ultimate is supposed to be used. Because here you have health, and this Hecarim is all around. You're only really as a team hindering yourself by using the ultimate here. Because you already have backup and you outnumber Warwick in the beginning of the play. And then you get the very comedy-heavy effect of the coincidental colors of this Hecarim player, making it look to Yone as though he is in the Death Realm too. And so for a while, instead of 1v1 attacking Hecarim, Yone will retreat because he assumes that Hecarim is stuck in the Death Realm with Mordekaiser. This is an illusion that is perpetuated by the greenish, deathly color of Hecarim. Hecarim, an atrocious 1v1 duelist, would be complete food for an experienced Yone player. In this play, Vayne will escape the gank attempt by popping Flash early on. Hecarim ends up running into the wall. We're going to get this twitch leg sequence where Mel is capable of putting a mark on the enemy target, and now the outplay potential as well as the lane dueling is going to revolve around guessing what that mark does, as well as measuring how much health you have left to deal with it. Never been on the receiving end of this kind of burst from Mel, but it is possible to deduct by looking at the health per second loss stemming from the ordinary poke spell that Mel can make use of. There can be only one takeaway here, and it is that this Vayne player is self-harming in terms of entirely ignoring every kind of damage mitigation. You have to imagine going into a blizzard and just wearing your ordinary clothes. Imagine going to the North Pole and just going in your everyday clothing. That is very much akin to the kind of thinking that sparks this. This Vayne player has done this to themselves, and I personally have not taken burst damage like that in well over 3 months. Because you can only lose this much health. This is a colossal percentage of her life pool that she loses here in a 1v1. It can easily be prevented. I've been preventing it for 3 months without interruption, and you deserve everything that you get if you equip and put your character together in this manner. And as we could have well expected all the way from the start, this genius that calls themselves Jesus is really far more lucky than actually a good player. This is caused by the insane situation of having a low health Vayne that refuses to build up any kind of defenses. Anybody could go on a killing streak against that. It's as small a life pool as you will find. We follow the struggle in the bot lane here. This clash going to end up proving that in low elo, all you really need is that sturdy warrior presence. More than anything, what we see on display here is what I've been talking about from the start, which is that all these extra tricks, this CC, these abilities to hook people, they are the best of the best. They are absolutely amazing if you are playing in gold rank or if you are participating in serious tournaments. But we have no need of that whatsoever on a difficulty level and a tier where people cannot even work together in the most basic possible ways. A blind man without a walking cane could have told you that all these hyper specialized moves of a Thresh and a Blitzcrank are never going to beat out the consistency of an Olaf or a Warwick in the bot lane. That's why I never felt guilty in the slightest when I had a champ like this of adding support to my potential queue. And this poor Smolder boy is going to end up expressing gratitude that he got to play with me and that he received my support throughout this game, and much of this was done without even really trying, which speaks to what a person in the hyper fragile position of shooter really needs the most. They don't get mad when you give them a Warwick style stability, they thank you for it. And then of course this kind of matchup is not even really the glory of this pick choice. This kind of matchup only speaks to the immediate test in terms of outplay potential in the bottom lane. Because the actual beauty of picking a warrior type and using that natural tankiness to create a wall of protection for your shooter. When it really starts shining is when later on, completely unlike a Thresh, completely unlike a Blitzcrank, you can build into something with that warrior dependability that can reliably solo push lanes. Which is almost like adding an extra player. This struggle for the Drake, showcasing the lack of brawl sustainability on Hecarim yet again. We're gonna have this Yone player and this Mordekaiser taking turns, leaving the top lane in a bizarre and complete poker-style wild bluff outcome. This ends up being wildly beneficial for the Dutch boy Mordekaiser, as Yone will leave this lane at a critical time, and Mordekaiser is going to burrow all the way down to the enemy camp. At this point in the game, this Thresh has become a much more fearful presence. Thresh, the epitome of an endgame champ. He builds up damnation, which makes him very difficult to deal with, and it just feels at some point like you can hit him for minutes on end without any kind of payoff. This Mel player, the same as at any other point in this game, is going to stay all the way on the outside and benefit yet again from being able to pick off a character, again an ADC, that did not stack a single magic resist item. This is of course accumulating into a caricature of max damage output that you would never find in a serious game, as you're essentially zapping enemies with 2 hits, and your defensive playmaking roots and setup spells end up doing 50% of the enemy life pool in terms of damage. You see the double kill on Yone here, but it's a kill snipe, thoroughly misleading, as it is a pure kill snipe in the cheapest manner possible, and perhaps a kind of payback for getting all his kills stolen in the first play by Warwick. And this kind of holding back of damage to encircle the enemy while this Vayne player is obviously getting killed, and this Draven player is obviously getting killed. This Yone player is in this sequence actively sacrificing those 2 team members to get to the double kill. It is a completely fake stat and one of the uglier common things in the low elo community. In the end, this Yone went 5 and 8, but even without the 5 and 8, suppose that you went 8 and 5. It is highly toxic and juvenile to bring down your whole team so you can get a double kill achievement. There is only one stat that really counts in the game of League of Legends, and that is wins and losses. Consistent damage in that 5th slot on this team, and I end up clearing the turret out in the mid, because Mel's stats are inflated here, and they revolve around the fact that you're picking off ADCs with 0 magic resist. We get this hyena-like behavior from this Hecarim player, finding a deeply wounded enemy and biting him to death. Again, you're not going to win a fair fight on Hecarim. He needs to be buffed. So you might as well go look for corpses and half-dead enemies. We end up with this standoff where Mel is going to have to retreat behind the turret, despite the fact that the enemy has no defenses on them of any kind, and one single CC hits them for nearly 50% of their life pool. Later on, this Hecarim will come swinging by, pushing the lane and pushing into the enemy lines, but forgetting that he cannot withstand a basic level of damage. At some point, I will accompany this Smolder player, and while we are under the final turret of the bottom lane, adjacent to the enemy camp, a Warwick will come on, prowling by, and rather than fighting him immediately, I'm going to fight him and take care of the turret first, so that I do not get shot in the process. If I have to look at the Steam Blue, and I have to think of the overall synergy between these picks, I would have to say AC Trash can be a brave pick. However, we've seen a lot of darkness when it comes to the support position in the last couple of months. I originally started out thinking to myself that there is nothing more noble than playing support. But we've come to find in the latest couple of games that there is seemingly nothing more satanic than playing support. Because it is just taken as it being their job to screw over the ADC as much as possible, and they have then, through communities on the YouTubes and the Twitch, allowed themselves the random privilege of continuously roaming the map and abandoning their shooters. And in that context, a trash pick can only be seen as a sign of stupidity rather than something commendable. We have Yone on their team, very difficult and rather a pro pick. We have Warwick for the team synergy, excellent, but then we have Vayne and Draven. Draven is in the correct position here, but very difficult to play, and Vayne is completely out of place in this position. And seemingly a person who has gone insane through a mixture of incessantly playing, reloading into games, probably lost more games in 1 week than I've played in 2 months. And an individual who seemingly has gone insane through this combination. AC for synergy, as there is no real tank wall, and there is complete chaos when it comes to shooters and damage dealers. You also do not have a source of magic damage or AP damage on this team. So you have no balanced offense, nor do you have a tank protective wall, which are the two easiest qualifiers. When we take a look at the Steam Red for the team synergy, looking at this lineup, we would have to say a low B. Mordekaiser is excellent as a front line. Smolder is an interesting pick and could make sure that you never fall without reliable AP damage. Hecarim is not doing much of anything for the synergy, and this Mel could theoretically fit as a mid-mage for a pick. The problem with the synergy would be a lack of tanks, as well as we've seen throughout the plays, a lack of ability to consistently take down turrets, causing the support player, myself, to have to do it. Taking a look at the individual players considering their behavior, this Aquamarine Vayne player, an easy C. 50% of that goes to your pick choice as a hyper experienced player who is spending considerable amounts of money on the game. It takes the height of nihilism and selfishness to replace a potential Mordekaiser with something like Vayne in the top lane, completely leaving your team exposed, and then it's just humiliating the rest of the trajectory, of course, as you end up attempting something something that you have no business doing, you're going 3 and 5 here, picking off kills. And then the bizarre spectacle of having to backpedal, you ended up getting Giant's Belt on this Vayne. And it's just total chaos. We take a look at this Warwick player. We would have to say a B. You checked in on some of the jungle objectives. You were able to get Spirit's Visage and Torn Mail, which is responsible by itself. You did not really create a fuss in the pings or in the messaging system, but were rather stoic and constructive. A bit of a sacrificial lamb, and I imagine overall this Team Red really much more toxic than this Team Blue. We have this Yone player, the only person who breaks even, although that is relative, circumstantial, and only a part of the story, as we know that 2 of those 5 kills come from the most blatant type of kill steal. There are essentially 2 types of kill stealing. As far as I'm concerned, if you're not Draven and you're not Jinx and you're not Caitlyn and so on, all kill stealing is inappropriate. But some is more egregious than other. There is type A, where you're looking for easy, cheap shots at a kill that you know you haven't been making. That is an understandable competitive element and something everybody does, and I do it myself all the time. Then there is kill stealing type B, which you will never ever see me do. And that is the type of kill stealing that this Yone boy has done. And we have to say consistently, Yone does not seem to be, on average, picked by people with the most constructive personality. Probably takes a lot of selfishness to go with something like Yone. And you end up doing kill stealing type B, which is deliberately holding back massive amounts of damage so that other people go down in a fight just so you can have the kill. It's my show, it's my channel, and this may be a little harsh, but we're gonna say a C for behavior. Even though you are the only guy with a reasonable KDA. We have this Draven player going with what is probably the item of the month here, I see. You went with Hubris, the kill streak, kill ramping item. You're going 0 and 9. 0 and 9, and you're buying kill streak items. Every time you see somebody die 5 times in a row, you should on their scoreboard or record see somewhere that they try to add defensive tank items. If you're dying 5 or more times without interruption and you're not getting defensive items, tank style items, then you are sabotaging your own team. However, you did stick with the bottom lane. You seem to be truly at your limits and not capable of doing any better. So we will say a B. We have this Phoenix A going 0 and 7 on Thresh. I would give this a C because we have again the stereotypical behavior of the support, making it a sport to abandon the ADC as much as possible and randomly going off somewhere. Something which is very easy to miss if you're not paying attention to it. And consistently in that way, oh the irony, but rather than being the most noble position, support has gradually become the most toxic position. We have this Mordekaiser player taking a lot of strolls and going on a lot of trips, much like the Dutch in real life. You went 4, 4, and 11. I would say a B. You tried to save my life at some point. Thank you for that. It is still all the same very irresponsible to randomly leave your lane. And it's something that we don't see a lot from reliable characters like Mordekaiser. We have this Hecarim player finding a way to go 9, 4, and 11. You are completely wasting your talents on Hecarim. I would say a B, a high B. You were constructive, you showed up at the jungle objectives. A lot of what you did kind of fell apart because you didn't have the stats in terms of tankiness and damage dealing to back it up. You need to urgently go play something like Yi or go play something like Wukong so that those efforts actually translate into success. We have this Mel player going 10 and 1, picking off all these 0 HP, 0 resistances. ADCs like Vayne and Draven with the easy poke. I would say behavior score a B. You had a good understanding of the basics of the game, and you were very quick with your fingers. However, as far as objective control or team play goes, you were pretty much a 0, a true caricature of what it means to treat League of Legends like it's a single player game rather than a team sport. Of course, this is something that we see all the time, but this character really took it to an extreme. We have this Smolder player going 6, 3, and 15. I will take into account that ADCs are the most difficult position to play in shooter slots, and we will say an A. I think you did literally everything that you could, and you seem to have limitless patience. You're going with a very challenging build, reminiscent of the pros. You never got angry no matter what happened. You were a steady presence. You seem to have a lot of understanding when other people had to take a break or had to do something unconventional. A star player and a winning player in this game. An A. Overall, we would have to say a 5-1 and 11 game. Main topic of this encounter, of course, was the indirect consequence of the support pool being empty in the middle of the day among younger players. You end up being slotted in as Olaf, and you just prove that all you really need on the lowest possible level is as many fighters as you can get. There is not much need for anything else as far as combat style and complexity goes on this difficulty level. You need to be able to work together on a basic level. You need to have some basic level of self-respect and restraint. You need to be willing to at times defend teammates. But you really don't need all this super fancy over-the-top stuff with setting up special snipes with Blitzcrank or using separate healing spells with Karma or going hyper quadruple mobile with Kaisa or being able to move the statues and the turrets with Azir. Those things are all superfluous. You get 5 times Darius, that's a charm, and we're headed for victory. It's worth pointing out, so far we had Jinx at 12 victories and about 38 defeats. This is all with a good KDA. We had Lux at 0 victories and 9 defeats. This is all with a good KDA. We have Olaf so far with 5 victories and 0 defeats. Worth pointing that out. Taking a look at the scoreboard here, we see the Smolder player, a complete copy-paste humanoid build from Worlds. Excellent of course, but very difficult to play. We're gonna get a repeat here of how Blade of the Ruined King makes everything better. We see here in wards placed and vision score, me with a 21. The closest to me is 10 here from this Mordekaiser Dutch boy. We got a 0 for Draven, a 0 for Trash, a single ward here for this Warwick player. And this is really a tremendous advantage to just get a bunch of scouting stuff for free, making the support role really attractive, making it terribly egregious in hindsight when I think of the amount of toxic support players that I played with, flaming me for everything and then never putting one of these wards down themselves, entirely sabotaging the team in terms of vision score, makes their behavior even more egregious. Has to be said here now, first game as a support, it was unintentional. Immediately came away with an S+. So in terms of getting mastery for your champ, just spamming him in the support role will do it. Seems to be an outdated and quite overly simplistic model Riot has in place here. The idea being that if you're willing to support someone, that you just automatically get a higher score. This was by no means a great game on my part for my standards. We only made a decent contribution, not a great contribution, and yet this is the first S score that we've received in over 2 months. Getting stuck on other champs, not being able to level them because we never get anything higher than a B, even when I'm going 20 and 2. So heavy favoritism there for the support role. And again, overall, they're jumping over hills and hillocks to make the bottom shooter role, by comparison, the least attractive by far. Moving on.
To action!
Minions have spawned.
To plunder!
First blood.
The might of Lockfar approaches. might of Lockfar approaches.
An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain.
Plunder.
Has been slain.
To action! I'm going. The might of Lockfar approaches. Urge to kill rises. I'm going.
An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain. Shut down.
To action!
Turret plating will soon fall. You have slain an enemy. Killing spree.
The might of Lockfar approaches.
An enemy has been slain.
To plunder.
Shut down.
Bastards of battle!
An enemy has been slain.
Urge to kill rising.
Killing spree.
To action! Vengeance draws near! Fight and burn! The might of Lockfar approaches.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
I'm going.
An ally has been slain. Rampage.
Urge to kill rising. The might of Lokvar approaches. Urge to kill rise.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
To plunder.
An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain. Unstoppable. Enemy double kill.
The might of Lokvar approaches. I'm going.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
To action! To plunder. The might of Lokvar approaches.
An enemy has been slain. Your team has destroyed a turret. An ally has been slain. Dominating. Double kill. Enemy double kill. Your team has destroyed a turret.
The might of Lokvar approaches.
Legendary. An enemy has been slain. Your team has destroyed an inhibitor. Your team has destroyed an inhibitor. Your team has destroyed a turret. Your team has destroyed a turret. Your team has destroyed an inhibitor.
The might of Lockbar approaches. I'm going. To action!